When the US invade other countries, it is normal. When the US get to invade Afghanistan, Grenada, Panama, Libya, should I continue with the list? Because the list is too long. Guys, we're talking about a country which had invaded more than 84 countries worldwide. And out of all these countries, they're the one who are right, all the rest of the world, they're wrong. To make this even more interesting, what about the invasion of Iraq with George Bush?
All the decades of deceit and cruelty have now reached an end. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict, commenced at a time of our choosing.
It's good to invade other countries, isn't it? It's good for you to go and place your military troops all over around the world in any place of your choice as you wishes, isn't it? So it is a good idea for NATO to go and get involved in the business between Russia and Ukraine. That is normal. But when other nations try to do the same, that is how we get to see all this panic. Look at them, how they get to panic even in their own media. All because of a military cooperation between China and Cuba. See how these American journalists react to this purpose.
This right here is southern Florida. Check this out. Southern part of Florida, we put it in red. I want to introduce you to your new neighbor, and it is China, because China is in Cuba, because they are planning a new joint military training facility. This is a new revelation to us, but not to our intelligence community and not to the military. They're planning to expand their relationship with Cuba, an impoverished nation run by horrible communist people, but are in desperate needs of billions of Chinese dollars. Here's how close they actually are to us. Are you comfortable 90 miles from Miami? Now, it's not just tourists and residents of Florida that should be concerned. What about our own military bases? We have a military base at the furthest south period. This is where you find Hemingway's house. This is where Truman used to vacation, a major facility down there. And then you have the Homestead Air Base. They'll be listening in, and they'll also be susceptible possibly to a Chinese-Cuban attack. We wouldn't have put up with this in the 60s. In fact, JFK didn't. Why are we putting up with it now?
Something serious did happen indeed, and this is supposed to be something that this media is supposed to be talking about, but unfortunately they're not talking about it because they don't want people to know about it. If it was the USA who have to go and have some military cooperation in another country, they would have been talking about it all over in their medias. But since it is China who have to go in Cuba for this military cooperation, see what they're doing? They get to distract you with other stories in the medias because they don't want you to know what is going on. But how did we even get here? Guys, here's the fact. The US thought that it was going to be easy for them to defeat Russia in this ongoing war that we get to see in Ukraine. And they thought that it was a good opportunity for them to destroy Russia with everything that they have. Unfortunately, it is more than 1 year now that this war has been taking place in Ukraine, and yet they have tried by all means to neutralize Russia, and yet they could not be able to do so. They apply sanctions on Russia, which we all know that this is their weapons that they usually use to many countries around the world. Whenever they are against you, whenever they want to put you down, they'll have to use sanctions through US dollar in order for them to put you down.
Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. We have purposely designed these sanctions to maximize the long-term impact on Russia and to minimize the impact on the United States and our allies. I just spoke with the G7 leaders this morning, and we're in full and total agreement. We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars, euros, pounds, and yen to be part of the global economy. Will limit their ability to do that.
So they did apply all this on Russia, hoping that Russia will go down, but unfortunately Russia stood on their feet and is still fighting until now. Now they were left without choice than to start trying to see on which way they can try to neutralize Russia's alliance, so that Russia will get to find by themselves, and that is how we get to see them putting a lot of pressure on ICC and South Africa to arrest Vladimir Putin, them trying to threaten their relationship with Brazil. We can't even talk much about India until President Modi had to go and put them on their place last week when he addressed the US Congress. But that was not all. They had to go far by trying to interfere in the business between China and Taiwan. We are talking about the same people who had vowed that they will never gonna support Taiwan independence. Today, they are the one who had to go and start placing their military base in Taiwan in order for Taiwan to defend themselves against China.
It's a vibrant democracy living under the threat of an autocratic superpower. Taiwan is just over 100 miles away from mainland China's southeast coast. This self-ruled island of more than 23 million is seen by China as a breakaway province that must be reunified with the mainland, even by force if necessary. The war in Ukraine has heightened fears over the fate of Taiwan and renewed scrutiny on America's role in a potential conflict. The island became part of the Chinese Empire in the 17th century. It fell under Japan's rule for 50 years until the end of World War II, then was governed by Chiang Kai-shek's ruling Nationalist Party. When the Nationalists lost a brutal civil war and fled to Taiwan, Mao Zedong's Communist Party took over the mainland in 1949. Both Taipei and Beijing claim to be the only legitimate ruler of the entire Chinese territory. For decades, the U.S. and most countries recognized Taipei as the sole government of China. But in 1979, the U.S. switched diplomatic relations from Taipei to Beijing. Officially, the U.S. and most countries acknowledged there is only one China. Yet unofficial ties between Washington and Taipei have been tightening. Multiple American delegations have visited in recent years to show support for Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, a leader Beijing sees as dangerously pro-independent, and the U.S. continues to sell weapons to the island. All of that infuriates China. In response, last year Beijing flew a record number of warplanes into airspace near Taiwan. For decades, the U.S. has been purposefully vague about whether it would defend the island should the Chinese attack. But as China's military might grows, more are calling for the Biden administration to end this so-called strategic ambiguity. And what happens to Taiwan will have ripple effects around the world. It's the global leader in semiconductors. Taiwan's chips power everything from smartphones to cars. While Beijing has rejected comparisons between Taiwan and Ukraine, experts agree China is closely analyzing the crippling sanctions against Russia. And they say there is the potential for an even more destructive conflict that could pit the world's largest militaries and economies against each other.
Since China know how they do their things around the world, since they knew their techniques, what they did was to give them the test of their own medicine by trying to military collaborate with other countries. And China knew exactly where to hit the US the most, not other places rather than Cuba. As we all know that Cuba is one of the most enemy to the US for so many years. We're talking about more than 50 years that these two countries, they never get along. And this is one of the countries in the world that the USA does not have control over it. Now, seeing China going to build a new military facility in Cuba, it is something that the US could not be able to handle. And that is the reason why you get to see them having too much panic among themselves. You also, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, went all the way to China. It was not for him to go there and ask China to beg Russia to pull over their troops in Ukraine. Neither it was not going there to tell China that no, please take it easy on us with our US dollars, since the demonetization of the US dollar is now taking place all over around the world. Nope. He went there to try how deep the water it is and how serious China they are taking this matter. After he had failed to convince China to withdraw from building this military facility, he then decided to say this when he came back in America.
Yes, I made very clear that we would have deep concerns about PRC intelligence or military activities in Cuba. This is something we're going to be monitoring very, very closely, and we've been very clear about that, and we will protect our homeland, we will protect our interests.
When Blinken is saying that they will defend their land with everything they have, why they can't let other countries around the world to do the same? That is just a question I'm leaving to you, because this is what we get to see when it comes to their turns. Alright, let us just say that it is fine, they are going to defend their land. Come to think of it, they are not going to defend themselves against China, because China have not declared war on anyone. Instead, they are the one who have created a lot of enemies around the world. Besides China and Russia, Iran had reached also to Cuba. Last week, the president of Iran went to an official visit to Cuba. Have listened to what he said about these matters.
This visit is in a series of initiatives taken up by Cuba. Havana is making deliberate attempts to reach out to distant but critical allies. Before this, they were with Russia and China, two countries that have emerged as direct threats to the United States, either geopolitically or in trade. Russia and China are hitting US exactly where it hurts and wooing Cuba exactly where it will cave.
We all know that the Cuban people, the people that have been suffering the injustice sanctions that the US had put on them for so many years. And guys, whenever they put in these sanctions on countries such as Cuba, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, and many more countries around the world, obviously there have to be someone who have to come and compatriot with you. And here we're talking about such countries as China and Russia. These two countries, they've been there for people of Cuba for so many years, and their relationship have even grown very, very, very fast, because they had understood that the sanctions that the US get to impose on these countries, they are not fair. And the President Putin had confirmed it.
Мы знаем, что незаконные санкции, в которых живет Куба, продолжаются десятилетиями. Тем не менее, кубинский народ справляется с этим. Мы со своей стороны будем делать все для того, чтобы наше экономическое взаимодействие помогало преодолевать эти привнесенные извне сложности.
Just because of that, that's the reason why China had to agree to build this electronic facility in Cuba, because they can get to see that the Cuban people, they need some assistance from other countries around the world, since the US could not be there for them. So what I notice is that the USA, they feel more comfortable when it is them who have to deal with other people's matters. But when someone else try to deal with other people's matters, it becomes their problems, and they feel now like they are being threatened by these other countries. So it is good for them to go and invade other countries. It is good for them to go and interfere in other people's business. It's good for them to go and not bring peace, but to make even fire become bigger in other countries. That is not a problem. But just because Cuba allow other nations to go and collaborate with them military and get support from these countries, it becomes now a problem for them. Why are they afraid? Of course, it is for the simple reasons. They are afraid because they know what they've been doing to other nations. They are afraid because of what they've been doing in other countries by bringing instability in other people's countries. Now they feel like if this has to happen to them, it is going to hurt them the most. As we said earlier, Cuba is very close to the USA. We're talking about 160 miles to enter LA. That is the reason why they don't want to make it easy, because they're afraid that if China have to go ahead and build this electronic military system in the island of Cuba, it will affect the communication that is happening around in that province. And that's the reason why they feel threat. But this is the same thing they want to do with Russia in Ukraine. We don't know about it. When Russia tried to defend themselves, you'd see how they all stood in their power to fight Russia. They are busy doing the same thing to China, to Taiwan.
The exercises reflect China's anger at the meeting between Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy last week in Los Angeles. It reinforced signals that if China tries to seize Taiwan, which it claims is its own, America would protect the island's independence.
The friendship between the people of Taiwan and America is a matter of profound importance to the free world.
So with all this being said, you'll understand that there's only two options between these two countries, or should I say three countries, because on the one side we are having Russia and Ukraine, and in this conflict we all know what is this conflict all about. Russia is still fighting about their sovereignty. Since they could not finish up fast with Russia, they then decide to go to Taiwan, and that was something that China could not also allow them. While China, they're still trying to see on how they can deal with this problem, they decided to give America the test of their own medicine by going to collaborate with one of the neighboring country to America. And this is something that we had spoken about in our videos many times ago, that one of these days there will be one of the neighboring countries to the US who would like to collaborate with the enemy of the US, and we'll see what the US will do by then. I believe that moment, it has arrived, isn't it? That is why now they are now complaining too much all over around the world, because things are not going accordingly, because their plans, they are failing so far, because the whole world, they have opened their eyes and get to understand that we've been dealing with some people who don't have mercy on other countries. So guys, we shall wait and see what will happen next. That is what we want to discuss with you in this video today. So if you don't want to miss any of our video in our next video, if this is your first time to watch our videos, you just have to make sure that you hit that subscribe button, give us your thumbs up, we'll really do appreciate. To those who always watch our videos, guys, we just want to acknowledge your presence as well in this video. Thank you so much for your love and the support. We really do appreciate that. Allow me also to take this moment to quickly let everyone who would like to collaborate with us or to sponsor us. Maybe you are having your business and you want to promote it, or maybe a company you want us to talk about it. Please feel free to contact us through our email, as you get to see it in the descriptions, and feel free to send us an email. Then we'll get in touch with you as soon as we receive your email. Thank you so much for everything, and I think that will be all for today. But for now, let me leave you, because it was very important that we get to discuss these matters and try to open your eyes and understand that there are some people out there who don't want you to know what is happening in their foreign policies, but yet they are the one who gets to entertain all the nonsense that is taking place around the world. So now that you have at least an idea of what has been going on, we just have to say thank you, and stay tuned for our next video that will be uploading very soon. But for now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon in our next video. Ciao ciao.